we're going to get started.
If I could interject, you also have Lisa Davis here from the Youth Division, the supervising manager, and just a few housekeeping points. On your screen, you will see on the side where you can type in your questions, and we will send the PowerPoint to everyone that has registered for this webinar. We will also have it posted on our website, and I will try to answer a few questions by typing it in as Walter goes on with the presentation.
All right, everybody. So before we get started here on completing our budget for our RFP, we just wanted to make sure that we go over some fiscal capacities. So one of the things that before we even start, getting to the completion of our budget, we want to make sure that we have good record keeping, that we have good accounting procedures in place, and we have a fiscal system of oversight. You want to make sure that without these things in place, it's going to be difficult for you to manage the program. Okay? So if we're satisfied that we do have our record keeping, we got our accounting procedures, we have a good fiscal system of oversight, then we are then ready to prepare the RFP budget.
Unlock your phone to continue.
Look. Did you do it or I did it? Okay, here we go. We're going to get past these little difficulties here, so bear with me. Here we go. So required for our 2015 RFP budget forms. You're going to have a budget summary form, a personnel budget, and a non-personnel budget. Now, the note here is note that the budget forms are locked for editing and data can only be input in the shaded areas only. All right, budget summary form. In order to complete the budget, again, the three forms we needed are the budget summary form, the personnel budget, and the non-personnel budget. So our first form we would complete is the budget summary form. So the purpose of this form is just to summarize everything. Now we want to make sure that we show all the expenses that will be paid with the city and those that will be paid with other funding share. For the budget summary form, the most important thing to remember is that we are only inputting data in the shaded area only. Here's an example of our budget summary form. So the budget summary form has various shaded areas, A1 being the department, all the way down to B2 being our federal employer identification number. So here, where we mention here, always input data in the shaded areas only, this is what we're talking about. The shaded areas would be the areas that are yellow. Okay? So as you can see in the body of this form, there is no shaded area, so you wouldn't be entering any data in column D1 or column D2 all the way over to D5. Your information that you're going to be inputting for this form is basically the header information, and that's it. So in completing the RFP budget summary form, we have these descriptions of the things here that are those highlighted items that we just went over. A1 all the way through C1 being program name, where you want to provide the program name of your program. So you'll notice here that in A2 it lists program. Here is where we would here is where, no, keep the current.
Okay.
Okay, here is where you would, CA2 is where you would show program, is where you provide the actual name of the program from the department. So if you're running a One Summer Chicago Plus program, here's where it would be showing A2 would be One Summer Chicago Plus. But here at C1 is where you would call what you call the name of the program. If it's a gardening initiative, you would call it here gardening initiative. So again, we want to complete the shaded areas of the document. One of the shaded areas is a phone number. So you want to provide a contact phone number. The contact phone number should be someone who can answer questions regarding the RFP budget, along with an email address. Again, that person's email and contact phone number should be of a person who can answer questions as it relates to the completion of the RFP budget summary form. Excuse me. And then you have D1 and D2. D1, D2, excuse me, types of expenditures and account numbers. No need to complete anything there. Those are all provided for you. You then, you would, completing the RFP budget form, some from continued. We would then try to complete columns D1 and D2. These are what they are, the items of expenditures and examples of costs and account codes. The reason you don't have to complete them is we've already filled them in for you. The personnel account code is salaries for 0005, salaries, stipends, overtime, so forth and so on. Fringe benefits being 0044, operating and technical costs being 0100, and professional and technical is 0140. Local travel is 0200. One of the things that we just want to make sure of is that we note that we're still in the summary budget form, and these would be part of the body of this form where there's nothing shaded. So to make sure that we note that all of these accounts are all linked to various non-personnel forms and or personnel forms. Then we got materials and supplies, that's account 0300. We have equipment 0400. We want to make sure that when we are talking about budgeting for equipment, that we make sure that we show equipment as office equipment and furnishings, telephone networks, information technology equipment and systems, air conditioning equipment, reproduction, print equipment, other motor vehicles, those type of things. But those type of things that I'm talking about here would have to cost $5,000 or more in order for you to show that as budgeted equipment. Any of these things costing $4,999.99 or less, you would show these types of equipment as materials and supplies in account 0300. And then finally there is the other program costs, account 0900. Here is where we're going to show all of the participants in the program. So this is an important account on the RFP budget. So if we're going to be budgeting for youth, we want to make sure that we show the youth in one line on 0900. If we're going to be budgeting for mentors, we would show that on another line. If we're going to be budgeting for coaches or whatever we're going to be budgeting for, this is where we're going to show those participants in the program costs here in account 0900. So we're continuing on with the summary budget form, and now we have columns D3 through D5 and E. So in order to complete columns D3 through D5, we have to complete the non-personnel budget form, and we have to complete the personnel budget form. Now the note here is indicating that the electronic version of the budget forms will automatically transfer the total personnel and fringe benefits amounts from the linked personnel form and non-personnel amounts from the individual line items from the linked non-personnel forms, completing columns D3 through D5. So it's basically saying in order to complete the body of the summary budget form, you have to complete the personnel budget form and the non-personnel budget form. Then we'll end up with the percentage of total costs paid by the other share. This section will automatically be populated by formula based on the summary of information entered into D4. Okay? We want to make sure that we are inputting data in the shaded areas only. So, we're now ready to complete the body of the summary form. So again, in order to complete the body of the summary form, we're going to start off by completing the personnel budget form. On the screen now is a screenshot of what that form would look like before it is completed. So we have various columns here. A1 is position title, all the way to A9, summary of job responsibilities. Then we also have that'll be section A. Then we have a section B. That'll be our fringe benefits section. And fringe benefits are FICA costs, our unemployment, workers' compensation. We're gonna go through them right now. So completing our personnel budget form, the purpose of this form is to estimate the total personnel costs the agency expects to incur in operating its 2015 Summer Youth Employment Program, and to provide a brief summary of the job responsibilities for each budgeted position. We just want to, again, make sure that when we are inputting data for the personnel budget form, that we input data in the shaded areas only. So, column A1. Column A1, position titles. Here you want to list all positions needed to run the 2015 employment program. Okay, so if it requires 2 positions, that these 2 positions would be listed here on this form. If it requires 6, 7, whatever the number, you want to make sure that you list the positions here. You want to list in column A2 the number of positions. This column should contain the number 1 only. Then you want to show the rate of pay for each position listed in column A1. Next is column A4, is where we want to show the time spent on the program. Here's where you want to indicate that if we're going to be spending 10% of your time on our program, 100% of your time, whatever the amount of the time that you're going to be spending on our program, here's where you would indicate it in column A4. And then we got column A5 is our pay periods. Now, pay period column is important, where we want to make sure that we know for each position listed in column A1 the number of pay periods to be paid during the term of the award. So if we're going to be running, say, a summer program, and we know the position is going to be paid during the summer months 6 times, then here is where we would show 6 times. If we're running a year-round program, for example, and we know the position is going to be paid 24 times for the year, and then this is where we would show 24. But because we want to make sure now where we have the correct pay periods on here, because here's how the comptroller is going to determine if when you're chosen as a delegate, the amount that's going to be reimbursed to you. So keep that in mind. It is important to know for every position listed in the budget how many times that position will be paid during the term of our award. City share, and we got column A6. The city share is the amount of total costs from column A1, from column A8 to be paid with city funds. So when you're preparing the budget, the first thing that you do is you prepare the budget for total costs. Once you have determined the total costs, then you come back and you determine of the total cost, how much do you think the city should pay for? Okay? So you're going to first always determine the total cost. That's column A8. And then you determine the city share, and then you let the form compute other share. Now, other share can never be a negative number. And the only way that you would have a negative number as other share is when the city share exceeds total cost. And the city share can never exceed total cost. The city share can be equal to or less than total cost. If the city share is equal to total cost, then the city will be paying for that expense. If the city share is less than total cost but not zero, then the city along with the agency will be sharing in that expense. If the city share is zero, then the agency will be picking up the entire expense. Okay? So we first compute total costs, then we determine the city share of that total cost, and then we let the form compute other share. Column A9. So there's a summary of job responsibilities. Here's where we would provide a brief description of the responsibility. And you know, you wanna hear, we say brief because the form basically does not allow for you to have multiple characters. So if you're wanting to provide, say, a resume or something like that, that you can do that, but you will just have to provide that as a separate attachment. So you would say something like, let's say we have the executive director. We would say, oversee the program, and then we say, see attached resume. You know, because again, there's no way with the little bit of space that's provided that you're going to be able to be as detailed on the duties or responsibilities. And then finally you have row A10, which is personnel totals. These totals will be populated by formula. Personnel totals indicate subtotals for columns A2, A6, A7, and A8. Now once we have completed our listing all of our positions that are required for the completion of the program, the next step will then be to complete the fringe benefits associated with those positions. So for all the city share in preparing your budget, all expenditures except for fringe benefits, you can apply this rule. The rule is that the city share can be equal to or less than total cost. You cannot apply that rule to fringe benefits. The fringe benefit rule is the city share has to be proportional to the amount of city share funding. So if we have a total cost of personnel of $100 and we are charging zero of that $100 to the city share, then we can charge zero fringe benefits to the city share. If we have a $100 payroll and we're charging $50 of that payroll to the city share, then we can charge 50% of the fringe benefits associated with these positions to the city share. Okay? So that's important to note. You can always charge less, but you never can charge more. So again, the rule for the fringe benefits is fringe benefits, the cost of the city share has to be proportional to the amount of salary costs charged to the city share. Zero charges to the city share, 0 charges to city share for fringe benefits. And we have a question. If there are 3 coaches, should each coach be identified on its own line so that the position can be identified as one in the appropriate column? Yes. And as we fall backwards, we will go, this is where we will look here at column A2, number of positions. This column should contain the number 1 only. So if you're listing more than 1 coach, then first thing here is that no coach should be listed in personnel budget form. All coaches will be listed on the non-personnel budget form in account 0900. Okay? Remember, guys, we said in the beginning that for all the participants in the program, you are a coach, a mentor, a youth, all of those are going to be tracked in the other line on the budget. The personnel budget form that we're going over now are for positions that are not considered to be participants. Okay? So we're moving right on along back to where we were here. We were at the fringe benefits here. Again, when we're talking fringe benefits, we were just making sure that we know the rule for the fringe benefits. And again, the rules for the fringe benefits are fringe benefits have to be proportional to the amount of salary costs charged to the program. For all other expense categories on the budget, you can apply the rule of equal to or less than. So we have fringe benefits continued here. These are, I'll go back, make sure we went over them. For the fringe benefits, we have Social Security and Medicare, which make up FICA costs. So for our FICA costs, Social Security portion of our FICA costs, the employee's tax rate is 6.2%. This is the amount that you will withhold from the participants in the program. And the employer's match is also 6.2%. This is the amount that you will match for every dollar that you are withholding from the participant's paycheck. There is a limit on this, $117,000. Once we reach that limit, we no longer are responsible for Social Security. Hopefully, for what we're doing, we won't have to worry about that. Medicare, we have an employee tax rate of 1.45%. This is the amount that you will be withholding. This will be the amount that you will be withholding from the employee's payroll check. Your employer match for this Medicare is also, I believe that's the typo there. It's also 1.45%. There is no base limit for Medicare tax. And again, all of both Social Security and Medicare should be computed every pay period. B2, we got state unemployment. Here you want to provide the total cost. There's unemployment insurance and state workers' compensation insurance. We got other. The other is going to be for benefits that you are providing that didn't fit in any of the categories above. And then finally, one thing you want to make sure of is in other is that for the fringe that you are asking that be budgeted, that you indicate what that fringe is. There will be a shaded area on the form for you to indicate that. And then finally, there will be fringe benefit totals. This is a section that will be populated again by formula, and it'll add up all of the columns A6 to A8. Then we have column B7, personnel cost totals. This section will be populated automatically by formula. The personnel cost totals are generated by adding personnel totals, A10, and fringe benefit totals, B6, for your total personnel costs. Remember, guys, we're inputting data in the shaded areas only. So if we've then completed our fringe benefit section again, we would be finished with our personnel costs form will be done, and we are now ready to move on to our non-personnel budget form. Now, for our non-personnel budget form, we would jump right into the column A5, total cost, because for both our non-personnel budget form and our personnel budget form, we don't have to worry about inputting the header information such as delegate agency name and program name, department, or program. For these are all linked to the summary form, and you only have to input that data once. So again, we were in completing now our non-personnel budget, we would jump right into the A5 total cost column. And we would, again, go in category by category. Operating costs, we've already estimated what is it going to cost us total. For us to be able to know how much it's going to cost us total, we've already have to know the types of costs that we are anticipating expensing for operating costs. So we know those costs. We know how much it is. We will say $100,000 is our total cost. We will then go to start describing those total costs and what they are, rent, and so forth and so on. We got our next is our professional technical services. We will come right on over here into total costs and show what our total cost is. We will be noted for our professional technical services. We will be only showing consulting costs only. And remember, for our professional and technical services, these are our employees of our organization that we will not be providing W-2s at the end of the program, at the end of our fiscal year. We will be providing them with 1099s. If you are an employee of the organization and you're receiving a W-2 and you're needed as part of this program, then you would be listed as on your position will be listed on the personnel form. Next, we're going through the accounts of travel and the materials and supplies. Travel is local travel, so as you know, just for traveling around the city. Materials and supplies whatever materials and supplies required. We're noting that, remember, for our equipment, we would only budget items and equipment that cost $5,000 or more. And really, if we're going to be budgeting items and equipment, you want to truly note that these items are going to cost $5,000 and that they are necessary for the completion of our program. I mean, for items that are costing you $5,000 that are not absolutely necessary for the completion of the program, they should not be included as part of the budget. And then finally, we will end up here with the big one. The big one is other. Other is where we're going to be showing all of the participants in the program. Remember, the participants are going to be mentors, coaches, youth participants. Everybody that's in the participant that's participating in our program, we're going to be showing them here. Up here under travel. Yeah, CTA passes can appear under travel. Yes. Sorry, there was a question asked. Will CTA passes be budgeted under the travel account? And yes, they will. That's account 0200. And we have another count. Repeat the 1099 versus W-2 comment. Right. Okay. So in order to list a person on the on the personnel page, they would have to be first considered an employee of your organization and not a participant in our program. and that employee in your organization is one that you are withholding payroll taxes. At a bare minimum, you are withholding FICA costs. Therefore, at the end of the year, you are giving that employee a W-2. That is considered employee, and that position can be budgeted on the personnel form. For positions that you are not providing a W-2, you are not withholding taxes, you are providing 1099s, then those positions will be considered consultants, and those positions will be budgeted using the professional and technical line on the non-personnel budget form.
Confirm coaches.
Okay, now another question. Please confirm that the costs for coaches, mentors, and students should show up correct. All participants in the program will show on the non-personnel budget form and will be listed in the account 0999 other. So the description for those will be wages and related fringe benefits, but you should be providing a separate spreadsheet that indicates what fringe benefits we're going to be paid for, how you're computing those fringe benefits, how you're computing gross salary, and so forth and so on. Admin costs is basically going to be listed in all the accounts other than other. So where we show the materials and supplies, our travel, professional, operating, our personnel, those will be considered the administration of the program. Okay, so we're going to keep on going here. Again, now we're talking, again, we would show the budget as total costs, professional and technical services, for travel, for materials and supplies, for equipment, for other. Then we will come back now that we'll show the total costs. We will then describe all of these things also, you know, where you would have operating costs of all of the things that you could have as operating costs here. You have professional technical services, consultants, local travel is just local travel only. Materials and supplies are, you know, the things that you can buy as materials and supplies. And given you want to talk about this equipment line, again, we want to make sure that budgeted equipment is going to be something that costs $5,000 or more, and that you're sure that that $5,000 item is required for the completion of our program. Okay, another question here. Walter, but if the participants, mentors, coaches are not paid by the applicant but by the city, we do not include them in other 099, correct? No. If you are a participant in the program, no matter what the title of you are, if you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're the youth, your position is budgeted on the non-personnel budget form in account 0999. Okay? So we're going to have youth. The first line will be youth. Here's what we will show the youth. If you have coaches, next line will be coaches. If you have mentors, the next line will be mentors. If you need more lines, let me know, and we will open the form up so that you can have more lines. Okay, again, so the purpose of this form, the purpose of this form is to estimate the non-personnel costs the Helen agency would expect to incur. Okay, remember, shaded areas only. Here are what the shaded areas look like. So here in the A1, we have types of expenditures, no need to complete. These are what we already gone over. Account numbers, no need to complete. We've already gone over. You know, the city share is going to be a rule. The rule is equal to or or less than total cost. Here we have a question. How do we determine the city share? Okay, so the city share is, first you determine the total cost. You determine the total cost. And you say, we have $100,000 over total cost. So now you just want to say, how much then of that should I charge as the city share? Now you have to determine that yourself. Do you want to go ahead and say that we want to request an award of exactly the total cost, meaning that I will be contributing nothing? Then you know that the city share is always going to be equal to the total cost. And we want to say, do we want to show an award that's going to show that I'm going to contribute something? Then you know that the city share is going to be less than the total cost. And the city share is going to be whatever that percentage is that you want to provide. So let's say you say, I want to provide 80%. I want to provide 20%, and I want the city to provide 80%. So the city share would be 80% of the total cost, knowing that your share will then be 20%. Another question? Should agencies withhold workers' compensation for participants? Yes, if that's part of your guidelines for your organization, that you guys withhold workers' compensation, correct. You should withhold workers' compensation. And then so back here to our slides here, we got, again, city share, and we got other share. So we know first thing that we want to do always, first thing we want to do is we always want to complete total cost. So we want to first determine what the total cost is. Once we've determined the total cost, and we know now, again, that these are all the costs that are required to run the program. All right, this is charged to the program or not. Now, you want to say it cost us $100,000 to run the program, and then you want to say how much of an award do we want to ask for. Okay? So, again, we've started at total cost. We've then, based on the total cost, we've came in and showed the city share, and then we've let the form prepare the other share. We just want to remember now that we never can have a negative other share, and the only way that you can have a negative other share is if the city share exceeds the total cost. Another question. What has been the experience relative to other share? Do most organizations contribute other funding or services? Yes. This is, I believe Lisa is saying that there is a required 15% match. So in preparing the document, you don't want to show, you can show some accounts equaling to the total cost, but there would have to be some accounts that are less than the total cost because, again, you have to contribute to the program. All right. And continuing on here, again, we show total cost first. We then apply the rule for the city share. City share can be equal to or less than total cost. If city share is equal to total cost, then we will be paying for the total expenditure. If city share is less than total cost but not zero, then we will be sharing in the expense with the agency. If the city share is zero, then the agency will be picking up the total cost. And we have another question. When you calculate the total cost to the program, do you include the participants' wages? Absolutely. Absolutely. You include to determine the total cost of the program, the total cost will include all costs, everything that you can think of that is needed and necessary for the completion of the program. That is the total cost. Then of the total cost, you will be applying the rule. The city share can be equal to or less than total cost. Okay? Remember, you want to describe everything here in detail. The form does not allot for you to describe in detail, so you want to make sure that you include whatever additional sheets as necessary. Okay? Next, the form will do it again. It'll calculate all of the total personnel totals, and all of these totals will then be linked to the summary form, and it'll fill in the body. So here you want to show all the calculations, include all quantities. Non-personnel budget form will automatically transfer to the body, non-personnel and personnel to the body of the budget summary form, completing columns D3 to D5. So we've now completed our non-personnel budget form. We've completed our personnel budget form, and it is now time to review the summary budget form. So in our review of the summary budget form, what we want to make sure is that all of the shaded areas are filled in. The city award column is equal to the amount of the award you anticipate receiving from the city. The other share column has no negative figures, and the total cost column is equal to what you think the total cost of the program is. Okay? And now we have another question. Is it a problem if the city share is 100%? Yes, that's a problem. And the reason why that would be a problem is because Lisa is indicating that in order to participate in the program, you have to contribute at least 15%. So that means there is a match requirement for the program. So if there's a match requirement for the program, you cannot have the city at 100% of the total cost. The city would have to be, excuse me, if there's a 15% match, the city cannot be no more than 85% of the total cost. You got a question? Please repeat the city share, total share, so I can properly present to my faith community. Okay, so all right, we're gonna go back, and I'm gonna put us on a form. All right. So here's a form. Here's our total costs, and here's our city share for it. And this will be for our non-personnel budget form. So for our total cost is whatever it's going to cost us to run the program. And that's the total. That's everything that we can think of that is necessary for the completion of our program. Okay? It's got to be necessary for us to be considered as total cost. As long as it's necessary for us to run a program, then we'll say that's part of our total cost. Then we have to then come up with a city share of the total cost. The city share is basically the award that you are anticipating receiving. So if we are talking about a total cost of $100,000, and Lisa is indicating that you have to contribute a 15% match, then you know the other share is going to have to show at least $15,000, and the city share is going to have to show $85,000. So we would have a total award of $85,000. We're going to be contributing $15,000, and the total cost of this award or program is $100,000. I hope that answers your question. Okay. So we have how should in-kind match be presented in the budget detail. So all in-kind, whatever yours part of the total cost, however it is, it's in-kind as long as you can put a cost to the in-kind and it is part of the total cost. You will be identifying that in the description and showing the city's share of that. All right. Still. Let me back in. All right. So here we're going to go on here. So it looks like here we have, this was our review. Then we have some challenges here. So we wanted to make sure that we have common challenges were math errors and lack of sufficient and or clear justification. We believe with using the forms eliminates the math errors. The lack of sufficient and or clear justification is up to you. Make sure you describe, justify everything as in detail as you possibly can. Here we got key pointers here are good documentation and again clear justification. You want to prepare the budget for the total cost first, as we've said, and then determine the amount of city share of the total cost. When a need arises, reach out to the issuing department for advice. I mean, as long as we follow this, we should run into no problems. And so we want to get through here. As long as we can get through this, then we're done. And then here we are. Now we want to take questions right now. So Lisa and I are going to try to catch up on some of these questions that we have being posed to us right now. So bear with us. As we get one, we'll try to read it out. Yeah, the question is will CTA passes appear under travel? Yes. Travel will be in account 0200. You will be showing CTA passes, and you want to just make sure that for our CTA passes that we only identify the number that we're going to be purchasing. So for example, for CTA passes, we'll be saying 24 daily bus passes or whatever that is, and that's it. We don't want to say 24 bus passes at $3.85 per bus pass. How much is allowed for CTA passes per student?
Okay, this is Lisa Davis again. How much is allowed for the CTA passes? This is going on the assumption that we are not providing passes. There is a possibility in previous years we provided passes for 6 weeks for SYT and Green Corps. So it basically is the user working 5 days a week. So you would provide passes to and from, according to this question, if you are providing the CTA passes. Whatever the price is, one way or round trip. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that one in terms of what the price is for CTA.
Nope. You haven't figured that one out.
We answered that, right?
Yeah. We're still here, still trying to find some questions, you know, that we have not answered. This one was highlighted. Yes. At this point, yes. Right now.
They don't know the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. The question is if we opt to use the third-party payroll entity, do we budget for the participants? Absolutely. So on your budget, you will show on this request for proposal, you will show the total budget for all participants and your total cost. And if it requires that we then revise something as we go forward, we'll let you know. Is an agency able to include indirect costs in the budget? No. No indirect costs. These are all city funding, and it has been determined that indirect will not be allowed for these summer youth employment programs. Question: are the participants' salaries and the 15% admin the only allowable costs charged to the city? Correct. That will then make up your award. Your award is basically not just the salaries. Let's say if there are direct non-personnel costs for the participants, that is not part of your admin. The direct cost of the salaries and the direct cost of the non-salary expenditures, as well as your admin, is what should make up the city's award. I believe, I can't even read it out. I believe the RFP states that there is a 15% in-kind match. That is correct. But that we have discussed a 15% match cash or in-kind. Is that correct? Right, their contribution to the program can either be cash or in kind. Yeah.
Right. It's a choice.
Yeah, you can be contributing services as in kind, whatever your in kind things are, you contribute, or you can be contributing cash. The thing is that you have to contribute 15%. Question. Note every line item needs a 15% match, correct? And some line items can be city share 100%, such as CTA passes. Right. So if the question, if you're asking for every line indicated on the budget, do you have to show the city share at 85%? No. You can show the city share at 100% for some lines, and then you can show the city share at less than 100% for other lines to make up your match to the program. That's question. If there is a 15% admin cap, why is indirect not allowed? We are only paying for the admin is only for direct services only. So this administration would be for those that are touching our program directly, nothing indirect. Question. Does the SYEP include suburban Cook County?
No, it does not. All the programs, SYP, Green Corps, and Plus, are within the city of Chicago.
Indirect are admin secretary costs, aren't they? Yes, indirect would be an admin secretary that's not touching our program directly. That secretary, in order for that secretary to be on budget as part of the city's award, that secretary would actually have to be touching our program directly, nothing indirect. Question.
The question, how much is the maximum amount of the grant? What is the maximum number of participants per grant? And how much is the cost per participant? Now that would vary on each program. So I'll use, for instance, SYEP. We're looking for you to have at least 100 youth. If you are applying for one of the special projects, such as the DACA program, and you're not able to have 100 youth in that program for that innovative piece, then we would need you to communicate that in the RFP and support it. Let's see, the other part to your question. What is the maximum amount per program?
What is the minimum number of participants?
Well, minimum number we are saying 100. I'm trying to find the sheet, because each program maximum amount, it varies. Say, for instance, SYEP. Excuse me. The anticipated range of this award is from $60,000 to $200,000. How much is the cost per participant? What I can tell you is that we pay each participant up to $600 for their wages.
Question. I am the in-kind/admin who is trying to get necessary info to get SYEP or Green Corps program and not a faith community employee there. My services will match. I don't know. I can't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't.
A question? So your definition of indirect is unrelated to the program versus the normal indirect versus direct operating cost definition. So yes, you're going to indirect here is going to be for anything that is basically not touching our program directly. That's where you're going to be charging the program based upon some sort of formula. That's where we consider that to be indirect. Direct is going to be based upon whatever the person's time spent directly on our program. Question.
Can applicants include subcontractor agencies for complete regional coverage throughout the city? Yes, you can. You can work with other agencies, but you will be the one awarded the grant. It will be your responsibility to monitor them and make sure that they're providing all the required services.
Yeah. Yes. Question. Can we hire new staff positions specific to this program and include as direct expense in the budget? Example, a new coordinator to manage the program for the 6-week period. Absolutely. That would be a position that would be part of your administration, your 15% administration. Correct. Question. Just to clarify, participants are listed as personnel. Mentors are listed as personnel, and coaches as other. No. All participants are listed as other. As you're saying, mentors are others, participants as other, coaches as other. All participants in the program will be other. Only your administrating positions will be considered as personnel positions. I can't. What is this? I question. The RFP states mentors of the One Summer Chicago Plus and Green Corps are employees of the respondent and cannot be paid via the third-party contractor. Do we still list the mentors under non-personnel budget? Yes, but if this is saying, if the RFP is saying then that you would have to pay for them, you would list the coaches under the total cost, but you would list none of their costs as city share.
Question. Can the mentors and coaches be older than 18? If so, are they participants? There's a distinct difference. Coaches are between the ages of 20 and 24. Coaches are only in SYEP. Coaches are considered youth participants. Coaches must apply on the One Summer Chicago online application. Mentors must be over the age of 24. They do not apply on One Summer Chicago application, and they are not considered participants.
Okay, so looks like we've gone through all of the questions. Unless there is, are we getting new questions here, Lisa? Is that what I mean? No, not really, not at this point. You know, we still, the third-party payroll basically is still being worked out right now. There's not a lot that I really can, you know, elaborate on right now. The thing here is just to note that by the time we're up and running, we will have more information on the third-party payroll manager.
Now we will, when we send the PowerPoint with the questions and the responses, we will try to answer all questions as completely as possible, and with the hopes that we will be able to give more clarity to the third-party payroll system.
This is another question here. Question. Can a project management professional fall under professional and technical services in the non-personal? Only individuals listed under the professional and technical services are going to be those individuals who you have a contractual agreement with. And again, that you will be providing 1099s at the end of the program year. Everybody else who you're not under any type of contractual agreement with, and you are withholding taxes and providing W-2s, then those individuals would not be listed as professional services. Another question? If the mentors are not participants, are they entered on the personnel page? Well, yes, absolutely. And again, we only want to show we're tracking in the participants in the program. So if you're not considered a participant, then no, you want to show them on the personnel page. The RFP clearly indicates that we shouldn't include the third one. We didn't change that. Do that. Include the third party. What is it? When you here's the question. Says the RFP clearly indicates that we shouldn't include the third party in our budget. Should we do as you have advised during this webinar? And if we're talking the third party, being the payroll processing entity, then right now you're assuming that that all costs, and if it's going to cost you to have to use a payroll processing entity, go ahead and assume that cost. And again, when the RFP is being reviewed, those that are reviewing, they'll know how they should review.
So the question here is the number of participants for PLUS the same as SYP program? Yes. Being mindful, if it turns out that you are not able to provide us with services to support 100 youth, please do not be discouraged and feel you should not apply. Please do apply. Put down the number of youth that you can support. And we will have to see and use that in the evaluation process if it's something that is feasible and workable for us. I don't ever want to say, no, do not apply. But I don't want to push people in agencies into applying for 100 and they can only sustain 80. Question, will you include all questions and answers of the respondents when you send the presentation? Yes. Question, I'm confused. What do you mean when you said mentors were over 24 and were not participants, but should be put as other on the non-personnel budget? Well, let me tell you my part, where I said mentors are not participants. When you say to me and use the word participants in out-of-school time, One Summer Chicago programming, participants are the youth that are applying on the online application. The mentor is not a youth. And I'll look to Walter in regard to the second part of your question. Should be put as other on the non-personnel budget.
No, again, we're showing only the participants in the program. So if Lisa is saying that mentors are not considered participants, then the mentors would be listed not in other. They will be listed on the non-personnel, on your personnel form.
I'm going to take two more questions and then I'm going to, are going to wrap it up. Question, are there specific rates for youth, coaches, and mentors? Yes. Youth, $8.25 an hour. Coaches, $8.25 an hour. Mentors, up to $20 an hour. Last question. When will the list of schools be identified and available to you? It depends on the program. The list of schools, one, will not be available to you during this time that you are completing the RFP. Once you are awarded, then the list of schools for all of the programs and the communities will become available to you. We first need to see who our awarded agencies, what agencies we have. And we're still working with CPS in regards to identifying the schools. I thank you very much for your time in joining us on the presentation. I did see several names that I'm quite accustomed to seeing for our bidders conference. I do miss seeing faces, but I do understand that the webinars, it helps you in not having to find parking around our location here.
Yep, and Walter Brown signing off. Good luck, and I hope everybody's chosen. Thanks a lot.
After this, we will have the Plus webinar, which will start at 2:30. Thank you and have a good week.